says, when courage overcomes habit, your story begins to change.
Mhm.
And I was just like, wow, that's really powerful. I would think of courage and I think of the heart. And I was curious, like, if you could take us back to the moment where your courage finally whispered enough, or if we need to give any context before that that leads
Yeah,
up to that point.
sure. Yeah, in the recovery world, sometimes it's called the qualifier, right? It's
Oh,
what brought you in? What are you doing here?
oh,
How'd you wind up in this world?
okay,
So I think that's an excellent
okay.
place to start. So, yeah, I'm Dr. Giles, and what my life looks like today is I'm an addiction medicine doctor, and we help dozens of treatment centers with their patients going through the recovery journey, detox and mental health and psychiatry and so forth. That sort of early stabilization piece. But long ago, now it's long ago, when I was a baby doctor, I
Mm,
was training in anesthesia. I was working on becoming an anesthesiology, and uh, and that was a dream come true. That was for me something I worked toward for a long time. College, it, difficult to get to. I went to one of the top colleges in the country, so that was part of the journey along the way. That was great. I was starting to feel like maybe I had a chance, and then I got to medical school, and that was great. And I had this notion from growing up that I could work my way through the way I felt about myself.
mm,
Not work on myself, work on the world, work
mm,
on problems, work
mhm, the
on helping
output.
people, work on learning. Yes, the
Mhm,
outside, yeah, the external, and I got really good at that. So I got good at academics. I got good at taking tests, and then when the tests turned into real life, managing patients, helping them through their challenges, it was great. And I picked the most difficult specialty I think there is, which is anesthesia. Anesthesia is all patients of all ages with all
mm,
problems, all surgery at
mm,
all times.
mm,
And I love the complexity, and I love um, I love taking them on this journey. You were talking about having a journey with psychedelics, and there's a spiritual journey going through a surgical procedure,
mm,
whatever it is, whether
mhm,
whether it's an emergency one, it's or traumatic, or whether it's scheduled and you're trying to deal with this problem, broken leg or appendicitis or whatever it is.
mhm,
All those things were very interesting to me. Um, but as I was in my last year of training and heading toward leaving the nest, becoming responsible out in the world, I was very anxious about taking on that responsibility. I carried this idea that despite all of the external stuff, which sounds like I was on track. And if you looked at me from the outside, you probably guessed that I was. But the way I felt inside was that I was yeah, fake and not
mm,
real and didn't belong and not smart enough. That was the main thing, not smart enough,
mhm,
despite what it looked like on the outside. So um, I was looking for a way to deal with those feelings of feeling not right or uncomfortable. Didn't like how I felt, and probably an occupational hazard. I had access to the most potent chemicals in the world for changing the way you feel. I mean, these
mhm,
chemicals make it so you could undergo chest surgery and not care at all, wouldn't bother you.
mm.
So,
Open heart
uh,
surgery.
open
Mhm,
heart surgery, yeah, they
mm,
give you the right medicines, and that would happen, and then they'd wear off. And so, I thought, who better than me to manage these things? I I'm an expert in these chemicals. And when I told the story long ago, this story is now 25 years old. But when I told the story long ago, I used to have to repeat the name of the drug that caught my attention
mm,
because no one
mm.
knew what it was. But now everybody knows what fentanyl is, right?
Mhm,
Fentanyl is an international scourge. It's not just terrible in America, but it's everywhere. And so fentanyl and I had a conversation, and I asked it for help, and it was very
mm,
obliging.
mm,
It was super helpful
mm,
in terms of changing the way I felt and why I
mm,
thought it was so good, why I picked it. was it wears off quickly.
Mm,
I didn't want to become a drug addict. I just wanted to use a little fentanyl, which I think is how most of us
mm.
for
Yeah, well,
most of us.
also, I love the reframe I think you offered with for people listening and for myself about, so I had a little conversation and asked for a little help.
Mhm,
The conversation, even just how you're reflecting upon it now versus,
mhm.
yeah, the story. Yeah, so I think that that's like a living example that you just gave.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
sure. I mean, then listen, now I feel differently about it than I did back then.
yeah, yeah.
Back then, it was the worst thing that ever happened. It was a catastrophe. My life was over. My career was over. And before all of that went down, I was terrified that that was going to happen.
Mm,
Paradoxically, the thing that I was using to manage the way I felt was
mm,
the thing that made me feel more separate and more distant and
mm,
more like I didn't fit. So, yeah, that was funny in retrospect, but not very funny at the time. So, it worked, and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to leave this alone. I can use this later in case I feel really bad. And listen, I mean, boohoo, right? I was doing the job that I wanted. I was working in a very high power life and death field, and even now, I judge myself about it. And it sounds foolish. So why did I just say, "Hey, Kristen, I'm feeling really anxious and overwhelmed, and like I'm not good enough at this job, and that I won't be." All of which was not true, but that's certainly how I felt.
mhm,
If I'd said that, I could have avoided all of this.
mm,
Sure, all of this near death, multiple times near death experience.
mm,
But I didn't have the courage to ask for help.
mm,
I didn't have the. I didn't think I deserved help.
mm,
So I kept managing, and I tried it, and I didn't die, and that probably was the worst thing that could happen because I tried it again and worked, but not as well, which means I probably needed more.
mm,
I did, but even that didn't work as well as the first time. And then I'm on the road to tolerance and
mhm,
dependence. The whole road didn't last very long. It was less than a year of several weeks, and then a couple of weeks, and then a week, and then a few days, and then regularly until. Ooh, did we freeze for a sec? And then until it was something that I was using not just to feel good, but I had to use it to feel less awful. I was
mm,
well below 0.
mm,
And so on the day this all came down, it was once again, I was just had to get through a day because it's short acting. If I could suffer for a couple of days, I'd probably get over the hump. 2, 3 days, and that'd be the worst of it. That's what I thought. And so every morning I'd wake up miserable, sick. I'd pull myself together, get to the hospital, do work. I'm not intoxicated, but but I need to be, right? Because I'm in withdrawal. I go through the day, I do whatever the work is. I had this very bright line about not using while I was taking care of patients,
mhm,
but I was not in any great shape to take care of patients, even though I wasn't technically under the influence of the narcotic. I was definitely under the influence of what I had been doing.
mhm,
And so all I had to do was go home and not use. It was very easy to get the drugs back then. People weren't paying attention. It's just some accounting tricks, and there's essentially infinite supply in the pharmacy. None of the patients suffered. That
mm,
probably would have tipped people off. There was a limitless supply. We'll call it that. And and so day after day, I would make a promise that I just have to just leave the hospital after work and don't use, and everything will be on the way to getting better. And then all this story, I never have to tell anybody this story because it'll all be in the past.
mm,
So I broke my promise to myself again and used as much as I could get, which was enough to feel not quite so horrible for a few hours. And then I was after work, sitting in my car, feeling bad, but also feeling a little better. And I got a page from the department chair, which for those of you who hadn't gone through residency or been in a big organization, the department chair is at the very top, and I'm very near the bottom as a trainee, right? A
mm,
resident, but a very junior doctor. And it took me a minute to figure it out because I don't recognize. Back in the pager days, you would page a number, and then
Mhm.
you put your number after it so people knew who was calling. Oh, it's
Mhm.
Kristen. Well, Kristen's calling, and then the number that you sent in is the number I call back to. I had to flip through this card we had with everyone's name on it until I found this number,
Mm.
apartment sheriff. So dum dum dum, right?
Yeah.
So I call,
Heart beating
and
faster as
heart
each
beating
as your
fast,
each
but
flip
also,
through. Yeah.
yeah, kind of relief and terror at the same time that,
Mm.
this ride's gonna
Mm.
end. I don't know how
Mm.
it's gonna end, but it's gonna
Mm.
end. So I called, and he said, "No, no offense, and we're not casting any accusations, but there's a large amount of fentanyl missing from the pharmacy supply.
Mm.
If it's all back by tonight, then there's no problem, and this phone call never took place."
Mm.
And as if I were squirreling it away, right? Or
Mhm. Yeah.
so I said, instead, can I talk to you? He said, I was hoping you would say that. And that began the journey to recovery, to treatment, to all the things that I didn't know. I didn't know how my mind worked. I didn't know that there were other people. I didn't know I wasn't the only one. I thought I was the
Mm.
only one who had ever done this.
Mm.
And in that phone call, he said, I'm so glad that you said that because a couple of years before you joined the department, we had a resident here who we found dead in the call room. And so he said, if you do this, you'll get well, you'll recover. You're a great doctor. We love having you here. And we want you to come back to the hospital once you're all better.
Aw.
I didn't believe him, but I
Mhm.
did I did think that, okay, well, maybe this won't have a worse. I may not die from this. And without having a better plan, I was out of ideas. I just did what they said. And so they said, show up here, do this, don't use, keep showing up. And then there was a whole bunch of things that they asked us to do along the way, go to treatment and whatnot. Um, None of that would have stuck unless something changed, unless something changed. And
Mhm.
so even back then, even when I didn't feel brave at all, I felt very fearful and cowardly. I I jumped into the unknown, which
Mm.
was trying to do something different, trying to do it a different way.
Mhm.
In that process, I found that I was mistaken. That's the main thing. I was just mistaken. I thought that I needed something in order to be okay. I thought I needed something in order to make it, get through, get by. And it turns out I was wrong about that. I not only don't need some chemicals or a drink or something to get through, I need to not do that.
Mm.
I need to not do that so that I can be, so I have a shot at being present, right? I have a shot at being,
Mm.
and if
Mm.
you, if you can be that wrong about something you're so sure of, well,
Mm.
maybe I was wrong about something else. Maybe I was wrong about other things.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
eventually, just a spoiler, I was, I figured out I was wrong about myself.
Mm.
That there wasn't actually anything wrong with me at all. It's just a story I told myself.
I love that.
It's a story I told myself that had great results because it propelled me through all this academic stuff and propelled
Oh,
me at
for
work.
sure. I
But
mean,
I
yeah.
didn't. I didn't need that story. That
Mhm.
story had served its purpose, which was to
Mhm.
get me to begin that pursuit. But it was not at all. Um, was not at all sustaining, and it was not at all true. It was. It was like you draw a line through the first couple points on the data, and you think, oh, okay, well, I know where this is going. But those 2 points were outliers. Those
Mm.
2 points were the mistakes. But I just kept drawing the line,
Mm.
and so, what happened to me is I went, I did all these things. I was involved in a program that's the gold standard for care, which is for physicians, has a 90 or 95% success rate.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was in the good group. And then I changed. I changed. I still liked anesthesia. I went back and finished. I went back and worked. I did that. I did a fellowship in pain medicine also because I was interested in that world, how people manage pain, physical pain, but all pain.
Mm.
And then a fellow I'd known from way, way back before any of this, from when I was actually a teenager, had started a treatment center and said, "We need your help. He'd been following along, because we were close. He'd followed along with my story, and he said, I think you can help us if you're willing to come down here." And this was a very different job than do it. I was in cardiac anesthesia, sober, back in the OR. And I said, "Okay, well, I'll try it." So I took a 6-month leave. I went down there, and it was like the fish met the water. It was
Mm,
exactly the job that I was supposed to do.
that's beautiful.